That's right, a long-time broadcasting icon with the Florida Panthers, 14-year NHL career. He is a not only sports icon in South Florida, he is a cultural phenomenon, and he joins us now to talk Panthers Rangers, Game 2 Friday night, Game 3 Sunday afternoon, and it is Randy Moller with us here on By All Accounts. Randy, thank you for taking the time. Appreciate it. Before we get to the Panthers, what was the time in your NHL career, and obviously it was a different era, but where you felt like, man, I don't know if the front office, I don't know if this team, I don't know if management is being forthright with me. Something's a little seedy right here.
Oh, that was back in those days. Thanks for having me on, guys. There was all kinds of shady deals, and there's a story that has been around for a long time, and I was part of that too earlier in my career, where the general manager basically said, get in your car, go to the airport, and I'll let you know where you're going once you get to the airport. That stuff happened all the time. But I'm just so happy. And for the fans down here, this Florida Panther team, as we all know, has been through some ups and more downs than ups over the history of the franchise. And so happy for the stability that the Viola family, Vinny Viola and his partner, Doug Cifu, have done for this fan base down there. And more importantly, I think, is for the community, what they've done for the community down here. And they pledged since day one that what they were going to do, they accomplished. And their promises that to be involved and support the community in a number of different initiatives with the foundation, with the Panther Foundation. And then riding this wave with the success of the team on the ice and what they've accomplished, and that it's a dream come true for me. I'm very proud and privileged to be a part of this, and hopefully we can get to the top of the mountain, because I can tell you, boys, it's going to be the biggest party you've ever seen in your life if the Panthers are able to get and reach that ultimate goal.
Damn right. And Randy, I'll say too, and Randy does a great job with Goldie, Steve Goldstein, Valley Sports, Florida. Let's just start right here, and because I want to get wide ranging. It's been a while since I talked to you, and I think that you're the standard bearer for this Panthers franchise through the worst and now what is really, to me, the top of the franchise existence. But Game 1, I know you tweeted about it. The defensive effort was phenomenal. What was it about Game 1, though, that stood out to you, the biggest difference why the Panthers skated that 3-0 win over the Rangers?
Well, they were able to execute what their team identity is, and that's quick, physical, and in good position. And they put on a clinic, the Panthers did, in that Game 1. They clogged up the neutral zone. They took away the passing and shooting lanes. They were physical. They were on in these small details, they were on the right side of the puck. They supported each other. Their line changes were crisp. They were coming out of their own zone. They were entering the offensive zone. All that put together is what the game plan was for the Panthers. Now, it's like yesterday's meatloaf, guys. That game is over.
Right.
And we are going to see a different Ranger team. And they're well coached, Peter Laviolette. They are going to make adjustments. They're going to tweak their lineup, probably put in Rempe, their big, tough, young player, to try and ignite. The Panthers just smothered the atmosphere at MSG after the first 10 minutes of that game. If you were a Ranger fan sitting there all game long going, why did I just pay $2,700 for this?
Yeah, you're bored as hell.
Right.
Excuse me. And that's the Panthers played it to a T. So the Rangers are a very highly explosive, productive offensive team. They've got as good as top 6 forwards as there is in the league. They know, they understand, they accept that wasn't their best effort. They're going to come out flying tonight. And the Panthers have to be prepared for that. They got to be prepared for that. I think the biggest thing is the Panthers are going to have to expect that the Rangers who were very tardy and lazy coming out of their own zone. So that allowed the Panthers to get their forwards in, get their defensemen to come down the walls and pinch and keep the pressure on. The Rangers are going to try and exit their zone any way possible, whether it's off the glass or dangerous passes up the middle. The Panthers have to be aware of that. And I said it before the season started. Goldie and I did a series preview that I think the main key for this series is if the Panthers can limit the Rangers, those odd man rushes, the 2-on-1s, the 3-on-2s, which the Rangers were number 1 in the league this year in odd man rush chances. If they can prevent that, they'll win the series. Well, they did it in game 1, but it could be different here in game 2.
Red Deer, I got to bring this up because I know me and you talk about it all the time when we're talking about Big Bob Bobrovsky and his play in that first game also. His play just overall in the playoffs, probably the last 2 years at least, has been unbelievable. But that's a tough place to go to MSG, game 1 of this series. The Ranger fans, the Ranger team, all pumped up, ready to go. And Bob puts up one of the best performances he's put on in a while. It was great to see that. And I kind of expect to see it the rest of the series. I know there might be a game or two where something happens, but Bob just seems as confident as I've ever seen him here in a Panthers uniform.
Yeah, he just doesn't give up those squeaky bad goals at bad times. He has developed a reputation when the Panthers, and we've seen it even in this series, or this playoff series for the Panthers so far in Series 1 and Series 2, where if the Panthers gave up the first goal or the second goal and got down, and then all of a sudden Bobrovsky makes 2 or 3 unbelievable, right. And then we all look at each other and say, hey, if the Panthers come back and win this game, we'll look at those saves as the turning point. He's done that time and time again. Guys, Sergei Bobrovsky is not a 22-year-old goaltender. He's in his mid-30s. He's been around the block. He's played many playoff games. And I think overall, the comfort level between Bobrovsky and his defensemen and Bobrovsky and even the forwards, there's a trust factor because they've been through the war recently last year in the playoffs, going all the way to the finals. They're not newbies to this. They've been there before. There's high expectation. They go about their business, and you are not going to rattle Sergei Bobrovsky. You can get 8 goals on him. He doesn't care. And you guys know, you watch the post-game press conferences. He's almost as stoic and repetitious. He says it's all about the process. We put that game aside and we prepare for the next game. And I got to be ready mentally and physically and get all. You listen to that, and you don't know whether they won the game or they lost. That's the way it is. Professionalism. He doesn't ride those ups and downs like a lot of players and a lot of athletes in every sport. You know, they get too high on the wins and then they get too low, even keel. And I think that goes back to the leadership. You see the Alexander Barkovs and the Kachucks and the Montours, Aaron Ekblads or whatever. I know it's maybe not the best fodder for social media or, publicity or whatever. They're not the most exciting post-game comments, but that's why they're focused. They don't go too high. They don't go too low. The comedy after games, wins or losses, is their head coach, Paul Maurice. Right. Is hilarious. Yeah. And I think fans really like it. He just says what he thinks. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. He's very entertaining. And I think that bodes well because he deflects a lot of that personality that the Panthers or that maybe the players don't have with their post game. Paul Maurice gives us that entertainment that we're looking for. It's a lot of fun.
Yep. Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, he's a one-man show, and why does Barkov have to do it? Why do we have to put on shows in the dressing room when there's Paul Maurice just doing his intellect with a little bit of profanity to entertain the masses? Randy Moller with us here, Viola. Randy, I want to play a game with you. It's called Excuse or Not an Excuse. Excuse or Not an Excuse. I want you to listen to Chris Krieger, outstanding New York Rangers goal scorer, had the hat trick that finished off the Carolina Hurricanes. Here's Chris Krieger after Game 1, the loss to the Panthers, and him talking about the MSG ice. Again, this is Excuse or Not an Excuse.
We're saying like this is not an excuse at all because we're both playing on the same ice, but the ice wasn't the best. But that's going to be the case at this time of year. That's going to be the case when you're playing warm months. It's warmer outside. There's a lot of people in the building. I mean, and the fact that it's playoff hockey, like everything has to be simple. They put everything behind us and they went to work. We didn't do it nearly enough, and even when we did, we were disjointed with our forecheck. You talk about not moving pucks up the ice quick enough. Just playing simple, quick hockey. Giving ourselves an opportunity to roll our lines, to roll our forecheck. It wasn't there nearly enough tonight.
So that on Twitter at SNY Rangers, that the account. Now, I found in my life, and I'm only 39 years old, so I still have some things to learn. But I found in my life, Randy, when someone says this is not an excuse, but an excuse is about to come. Chris Krieger immediately saying after a 3-0 loss, oof, that ice was just not in good shape last night. Excuse or not an excuse?
I don't want to be wishy-washy, but I think the way he worded his comments, if I can get inside his mind and being a former player, he wanted to come out and say that it's not an excuse, but he wanted the fans and everybody to know that the ice was horrible. And he did mention, hey, both teams have got to play on it. And
right.
But there's a frustration built in there because he's one of those skilled players with Panarin and whatever, and they want that flat, very cold ice so they can snap that puck around. Well, guess what, guys? We're almost in June. Madison Square Garden it's the most busiest arena. They're only dark about 10 nights out of the year. There's basketball and circuses and concerts and all kinds of stuff. And that Madison Square Garden, I played there for the Rangers. I can tell you guys, it is much improved now. It was horrible when I played there. Horrible. And it didn't matter if there was anything going on there or whatever. But I just think that there's a little frustration there. They weren't able to execute some of their fancy offensive plays. And but boy, what a shot against MSG and your ice crew.
Right. I was about to say someone's going to get in trouble for that comment, and it's going to be someone in Madison Square Garden for that. I can't even imagine coming out, after that. That's crazy.
I think you can file that under. It is true, but we face this stuff on a daily basis, especially with our wives and family. It may be true, but you maybe better not say it.
Right.
Randy, we live in a goddamn tropical climate here in South Florida, and they do a great job at Amerant Bank of taking care of the ice. But I mean, we have 98 degrees every day for like the last 3 weeks, and I don't hear Barkov complaining about it. I don't hear Kachuk complaining about it. Lundell, none of these guys talk about it.
Well, then okay. So let's turn the page. So then, for the Rangers and Chris Kreider, then you got to change. You got to adapt. And that maybe you can't gypsy doodle with the puck and tap dance over the blue line and try and make toe drags with the puck or whatever. Then change your style and dump it in and get it in behind the defense and muck it around and see if you can get a garbage goal. As I said, as we started talking here, it's all about making adjustments, not only game by game, but in game as well. Chris Kreider as a leader on that team, he's such a great player, and his presence around the net. Maybe not knowing the inside or whatever, maybe should have gone up and down his bench in the second period when they got down and say, "Hey guys, the ice is not very good. We got to dump it in and chase it rather than trying to carry the puck in because we're just carrying it right into the Panthers' trap." Maybe that would help, but.
Right.
Anything away from Chris Kreider. He's an unbelievable player. He's not a complainer or a whiner. This is the first. I think he didn't want to use it as an excuse, but he wanted everybody to know that boy, oh boy, the ice is not very good to suit our type of game. That's what he was trying to get.
Right. Just rip the people at MSG. Don't rip your teammates at that point. That's perfect anyway. Moller, I got to ask you this, and this has nothing to do with this series. You played, listen, I know you lost teeth. I know you fought. I know you beat people up. I know you probably took a couple punches to the face. I get it. You ever go before you're about to have one of those lineup changes, you're about to have a face-off, and just tell the dude, hey, bro, we're going to fight right in the next minute. Like, we're going to fight. You ever pre-plan a fight like Kachuk did at that point? Or did you just kind of just go with the flow? And did you ever plan the fight to happen, or did the fight just happen? I guess I could say.
Yeah, no, it is. And I've explained this before. People, that are, maybe new sports fans or whatever. Oh, I can't believe there's fighting. How fighting in hockey? Well, I'll take just a moment here to explain. They'd rather have a release of energy and frustration between two players by dropping the gloves. Very rarely somebody gets hurt by fighting than using a deadly weapon, which is a stick. That's the best way I can describe it and why they allow fighting. Okay, to answer your question, oh yeah, I was involved in many of those.
Right.
Like I say, I was involved in hundreds of fights. I only won 2, and one was against my brother. So, but a lot of times what you're trying to do is you're trying to change the momentum of a game. Your team's not playing very well. You're down. The energy's not there. And some of these role players, these tougher guys, will go out there and go to the opposition's tough guy and say, listen, I got to do my job. We're going to drop mitts here and we're going to go at it. And that's usually how it happens. It doesn't happen a lot very often, but boy, oh boy, it used to happen a lot. It seemed like it happened every game with me. And the worst part, I was a fringe player. I wasn't a star player. Yeah, I played a tough role and that. The worst thing was for me was if we were up like 5-0 on the road in Philadelphia against the big bad Broad Street Bullies, and we're up 5-0 with 3 minutes to play, and the coach says, "Oh yeah, okay, Moller, you go out and play. Get out there on the ice," and you're going, "Oh no, here." And sure enough, there were a couple of their tough guys on the other side. They're trying to do their job and send a message for the next meeting. And all of a sudden, I'm just like, okay, well, drop the mitts and away we go again. And that now there's rules preventing that, especially late in games where if you are the instigator, there can be disciplinary issues that you can get assessed and that kind of stuff. And coaches can get fined and that. So you don't see it as much. But that's the beauty of the game. The game of hockey at the NHL level is fast. It is physical. It can get downright vicious, and it's a war zone out there. And I think that's the attraction that the fans have. They want to see these players laid on the line and take a fat lip in order to make a play. And that's why I think the popularity of the NHL has never been higher.
Do you agree with Brad Marchand's comment that in the playoffs, the point is to try and injure players on the other team? Just based off of what you just said, do you agree with that assessment from Marchand?
Well, I mean, Brad Marchand, he's got a bit of a reputation and a history. He's an excellent player and an inspirational leader for the Boston Bruins, but he's had a history where he's not trying to just hit somebody. He's hoping that maybe there might be an injury involved as well, whether he does it within the rules or above the rules or whatever. There are players like that, it's a game of intimidation. And if you can look what happened in game number 1, where Matthew Tkachuk lined up and because he's playing against Vincent Trocheck, former Panther, and hit 3 times in that first period to set the tone, and they were legal hits, but he says, I'm going to hit you and you're going to go down and I'm going to send a message. And that those type of things happen in a game and game by game. And that's a perfect example how intimidation and physicality can swing the momentum or establish the momentum in a game, which the Panthers pretty well dominated in that game 1.
Yeah, it's just fun watching this team evolve from where they were a couple of years back of a good team and put together well to a team that's a championship contender every year. I think you said it earlier in the interview. it's so good for Panthers fans, the diehards that have been there since day one, the people that were in that arena when maybe they didn't think that team was a playoff team or not, and now all of a sudden surrounded by people that just want to be there in that arena. There's people all the time that I talk to that are not the biggest hockey fans, but just want to be there for playoff games. Playoff hockey is so much different than any other sports playoff. I don't know why, but it is. And it's fun. And you said it also, from ownership down, having guys like Matt Caldwell around there at all times, having guys like you around there for years, just the same faces in general. But Vinny and Doug, what they've done to kind of put this franchise on the map again and put it there as a sustainable team. As a South Floridian who never grew up with hockey, but just the Panthers were born down here, this is pretty awesome to see what's going on with this franchise right now.
Yeah, and you have to. I like to reinforce as well when the Vinny Viola and his partner Doug Cifu purchased the team. They came in and let's face it, this team, especially off the ice, was not in very good shape.
Right.
And they came out and said, we're going to do this the right way. We're not going to do any shortcuts. We're going to feel some pain and basically they pretty well burnt it to the ground and built it back up with the leadership of like Matt Caldwell. And there's a lot of others that were involved, and it was a small group, and they started slow and built up trust in the business community, in the foundation community as well. And they've done everything that they said they were going to do. And then they said it was going to take time on the ice as well. We're going to do it right. We're going to make sure that this is a destination so players want to play here and feel and build a culture. And what really accelerated that was the arrival of Bill Zito as a general manager. And you saw it from day one.
Right.
Trading for Carter Verhaeghe, acquiring Carter Verhaeghe. Same thing with Gustav Forsling off of waivers. And just building this roster with players that, want to wear a Panther uniform, fit in with the culture that they're trying to build, and then with the small nucleus of these young players of Barkov and Ekblad and these players, and then keep adding and keep going and then filling out the management group and then getting a coach like Paul Maurice. And it's like a wave that just keeps coming and coming. And
right.
That's important to remind people that this has not been a shortcut. The Violas and Doug Cifu, I think we're 11 years now, almost 11 years since they purchased the team. It hasn't happened overnight, but they've pledged that they were going to do it right. And I think what they've done, and you see now at the War Memorial with the Baptist House training facility, if you haven't been there, it is just spectacular that this has become a destination. And the players, not only because of the facilities and how the players and their families are treated, but they've built a winning culture down here. They're involved in the community. They have the right leaders on and off the ice, and players want to be a part of that because it's a winning tradition now that we built down here.
Ken, hold on one second. And also this, I think it was really funny a couple of years back because my wife works with the marketing and the business people at the Panthers. When my wife calls me and tells me she has a business meeting with Sean Thornton. I don't know who Sean Thornton is, she said, but I have a business meeting with him. I'm like, yeah, he used to be the enforcer for the Panthers. What kind of business are you doing with him? I was like, Ashley, where are you going? Oh, we got to talk about marketing stuff. And I'm like, with Sean Thornton? What do you mean with Sean Thornton? I don't know if the guy's got teeth left. I have no idea if his wrist is broken. I thought it was funny. And keeping the players around like Lou and Sean Thornton and putting them in the offices, I think it's another great thing. It's something the Heat did also. And look how good these two franchises are kind of mimicking each other and looking good together.
Yeah, they've really built a collection, and Sean Thornton does a great job. He's the chief revenue officer. He oversees so many departments for the Florida Panthers, and it exemplifies the personalities and the commitments that what has been trusted with these players. I can tell you when the Violas and Doug Cifu when they purchased a team, I was an executive at the time. And that ran a couple of different departments for the team, and we got into a room together, and we met with and that was what, 11 years ago or whatever. There's only 2 of us left, and I'm one of them. So there was a big turnover. I love working with that team and all the different departments and that, and, you know, game presentation and how they, you know, from outside, from when you pull into the parking lot and up on the plaza and then in the front doors and all the different amenities and the food and bev options and that. All these things matter. It's all about guest fan experiences. And then when you add the icing on the cake of an exciting, physical, winning hockey club, right, well, you just hit the home run. And it's been a while, but the Panthers have been able to accomplish that. It's a lot of fun. I just hope that we get to that top of the mountain, because there isn't too many fans, longtime Panther fans, that I don't know, and they all know me, and we've all been through together. For them to be able to celebrate that would be my ultimate career goal, because I've been with them ups and downs and that, and to be able for them to experience that would be a dream come true.
Well said, Randy.
I think there's, and I don't mean to insert myself into the Panthers' ascension, but I think there's parallels with you and I, Randy. I'm the play-by-play voice of Florida Atlantic football and basketball, and I bring up basketball because when I came down to South Florida in 2007, I don't think it's any stretch, and I don't mean this in an offensive way, but the Panthers were maybe the most irrelevant team in North American sports at that point. I spent a lot of time at Florida Atlantic in 2007 as arguably the most irrelevant college basketball program in the entire country. And then suddenly there was this left-hand turn and everything changed. And I felt so much gratification, and try not to make it about myself, but so much gratification that I had seen everything at the lowest of its absolute lows. And then I'm sitting in Houston last year in front of 70,000 calling a Final Four game. I have to imagine you probably, maybe even more so, feel very similar in the trajectory of your time with the Panthers to where this is culminated in, with the possibility of going back to the Stanley Cup Final for a second straight year and maybe finishing the job this time around.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some trying times and that, and yeah, for me as a broadcaster, going back to my radio days and that, where you know, where there's some trying times, but you always have that belief that there will be a left-hand turn, as you say, Ken, and that you believe that better days are ahead. Yeah, it took a little bit longer than especially with the team for 30 years, but that's why it's so gratifying now, and I'm so happy for the fans and everybody that's been involved in the long-term. Staff members and people that have been around the team. I mean, Goldie's been there almost as long as I've been there. Billy Lindsay has been there. You know, now Ed Jovanovski is back and broadcasting after a couple tours of duty, and that's what makes it so satisfying, is we can see the success that they're having both on and off the ice. It's really, really gratifying.
Rita, this is awesome. This is so good. The only play-by-play I do is my son go potty training. So, like, that's the only play-by-play capabilities I have at this point. And I'm not very good at it at this point because he's still not potty trained. So there you go with that then and there. Randy, listen.
Neither am I, so that's fine.
Well, I mean, listen, you and my son share stuff in common. That's how it is right now. Randy, I just want to let you know, because before we let you go, you're a first guest here on By All Accounts.
Yeah,
and
so
we couldn't have picked a better guest to start off with than having you on here and talk about everything going on with the Panthers, what's going on right now currently, and honestly, just having a fun conversation with you.
Yeah. That's what it's all about, guys. You know, I mean, I love the sport. I love my Florida Panthers. I love our fans and the passion that they have. And this is a great ride. I hope it continues. Just to reiterate, I don't believe it's going to be the same type of game in game number 2 as we saw game 1. We're going to see a lot more determined Ranger team. So the Panthers have handled that adversity before, going back to last year, where teams have thrown the best at them and they were able to fit short term and long term. But I'm really looking forward to tonight's game. And guys, thank you. I'm honored to be the first guest on this show, and hopefully you'll invite me back again.
No, Randy, I appreciate it. One more thing before we let you go. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up because it's been weighing on my conscience for the better part of a year now. Right before the Stanley Cup Final started last year, I worked at a terrestrial radio entity, and the Stanley Cup came through. I'm going to show you a picture from that, and I'm sure you're going to notice that I am touching the cup. And so when I put out this picture, unsuspectingly, Panthers fans absolutely torched the all living hell out of me. So I ask you, did I jinx the Panthers before the Stanley Cup Final even started a year ago?
Oh, I don't think it, guys. My view, and I think it's the view of a lot of people that are around the NHL. It's not a jinx. It's not. What am I trying to say? A superstition or whatever. For me, I will never. I've been around the Stanley Cup multiple times. I will never touch it until I win it, and that's just. I think it's a respect thing. That and I love. Hey, I have nothing against when they bring the Stanley Cup down and you get fans that are able, like yourself, to be able to take pictures with it. That's the attraction, and that it is the hardest trophy, the most beautiful trophy in all of sports to win, the toughest as well, the most physically demanding. And that I think it's more just as a respect. But I could tell you what, boys and girls, when that Panthers team wins that Stanley Cup, I will be there, and it'll take 7 security guards to wrestle me down, get my mitts on there, and putting that cup over top of my head.
Yeah.
That
Goddamn right, Randy Moller.
Hope for the day that, and hopefully sooner than later, that I get that opportunity. That's the respect that I have. My brother actually played for the Edmonton Oilers, but he was just a black ace and didn't get his name on the cup when they won it in 87, whatever it was, 86, 87 with the Edmonton Oilers. And even then, with the Stanley Cup, he wouldn't touch it. He got pictures with it, but wouldn't touch the cup because he wasn't a part of it. And that. So I'm in the same boat, but hopefully that changes because there'll be my fingerprints all over that baby.
Yeah.
If we're bring that thing down to South Florida.
Ken, just keep your greasy paws off it until we win it, okay? Jesus.
I learned my lesson. It won't happen again. Randy, just to echo what Zach said, really appreciate it. And you're a standard down here in South Florida, sports-wise, culturally, and we appreciate it and would love to catch up again if things get closer and closer to putting a Stanley Cup up in the air.
I would be my guys. You know me, and you can tell I love talking about the Panthers, talking hockey, and talking about living in South Florida, where this has become a hockey destination, and hopefully we can solidify that even more. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, our pleasure.
You're the best,
Randy Moller, Valley Sports, Florida. We thank him for joining by all accounts. That's perfectly said. And I'll go ahead and just mark Randy down for Chris Krieger excuse. Speaking of trophies and keeping hands off until you win it, similar situation with my wife. Kept my hands off, and then once I won, I was able. I hope she's listening. And takes that and says, "Oh, what a great husband I have."
Right, that was such a nice thing to say. Such a beautiful.